The UK swapped to fatal US blood products to save money, minutes suggest. We're going to read into this exclusive from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from The Guardian with the headline of the UK swapped to fatal US blood products to save money, minutes suggest. The exclusive reveals that contaminated blood campaigners say internal 1976 Immuno AG documents prove that the British government's negligence. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, obviously, I want to stress, obviously, this is what this is not factual, and in due course we will have more details about what actually happened in due course down the road, which we will read into the article shortly, guys. But we've had so many scandals here in the UK, and I just wonder, like, I look at not just this government, not just Conservatives and but Labour as well, and I just think, how much do politicians really care about its people? How much do governments really do care about its people? Because when you see something like this, I always get this premise that I always have now, that more and more I feel like people in power, people with wealth, that money matters more than anything in the world for them, more than anything. And I've asked this question before, guys, of where is the humanity? And I feel like this is exactly how I'm feeling right here, right now. Where is the humanity? Oh no, something to do about saving money, potentially. Again, this is not confirmed. This is what Minutes has suggested, which we'll read into. But still, it's so infuriating that lives were lost because people were worried about their bank account. I mean, I just don't understand. For me, like, I just don't understand how we can allow this. How can we accept this? And we always want justice when these things occur. We really want justice, and I just feel like, again, I just don't see that justice coming. We look at the post office scandal. How many of those people responsible are going to face criminal charges and imprisonment? Do we generally think there will be? I don't think so. I want there to be criminal charges. I want there to be prosecutions. I want these people to face time in prison for what the damage they've done for that scandal. But I just don't see it. I think, I do generally believe, sometimes feel like the UK really is a failed state. The UK that it is a failed system, and it just needs fundamental sweeping reforms. But I just don't trust Labour to do those fundamental sweeping changes and reforms because of some of the people that they have in that shadow cabinet, things that have been said. You look at some of the past history of Labour speaks for itself as well. We know what the Conservatives are like. Their history speaks for itself. But when I look at what they have, policies that have come in and what things they've said, again, I just feel like that. Again, is a future Labour government going to care about this? Are they just going to say whatever they need to say just to keep the public happy, or are they going to be open and honest? And these lives here, just like so many others, innocent lives were lost. They didn't need to be. And I always talk about how important it is to learn from these mistakes so that they never happen again. But if the people who perpetrated them get away with it, which is what's happened, which is what I believe will happen with other scandals that have happened in the UK, it only gives people the incentive to think, well, if they can get away with it, why can't I? Sometimes I feel like that's the more dangerous message that I sometimes said when it comes to these. rather than actually looking at these victims and ensuring that we give the victims everything they need, as well as the justice that they deserve. So the British government was willing to risk infecting NHS patients to get lower price blood products, according to a document that campaigners claim proves state and corporate guilt as one of the country's worst ever scandals. A public inquiry into the deaths of an estimated 2,900 people infected with conditions such as HIV and hepatitis will publish its final report in May, 4 decades after the NHS started prescribing blood and blood products, including from drug users, prisoners and sex workers sourced from the US. Within thousands of documents disclosed to the inquiry, internal company minutes have emerged that campaigners say provide the final compelling piece of evidence that the commercial greed and state negligence that destroyed thousands of lives. In November 1976, Immuno AG, an Australian company that was a major supplier to the Department of Health, was seeking a license change to allow it to supply a blood product from those who paid to donate in the US rather than donors without a financial incentive in Europe. According to the minutes of a meeting of medics in the company, it had been proven that there was a significant higher hepatitis risk from a concentrated known as Kryobulin 2 made from a US plasma compared with that from Austria and Germany. The company had concluded there was a preference in the UK for the cheaper US option. The motto of the meeting said Kryobulin 2 will be significantly cheaper than Kryobulin 1 because the British markets will accept a higher risk of hepatitis for a lower price product in the long term. Kryobulin 1 will disappear from the British market. A Granada World in Action documentary has already reported a year earlier that drug users and people living on the streets in the US were being paid to give blood and that their donors were not consistently honest about their lifestyles and health. General apologises for the scandal that has been made by the government in recent years, but Rishi Sunak has been accused of dragging his feet over compensation. About 4,500 interim compensation payments of £100,000 have been made to victims and bereaved partners that leave 2/3 of families without redress. The Prime Minister defies calls from the inquiry chair, Sir Brian Langstaff, last year for a final compensation framework to be set up by the end of 2023 and for payments to be extended to the parents and children of those infected. Among the victims of the contaminated blood scandal were 1,250 hepatitis infected with HIV and a further 2,400 to 5,000 people with such bleeding disorders who were infected with hepatitis C. A total of 1,170 of those people had died as a result of their infections, including scores of children. They were infected through a blood product known as factor 8. I'm going to assume. I don't know my Roman numerals. Of which Kryobulin was one of the brands. One of those who died after being infected by Kryobulin 2 was Jonathan Evans, a carpenter from Coventry, who died at the age of 31 in 1993. His son Jason, who was 4 years old when he lost his father, has spent more than a decade campaigning for justice. Jason, 34, said, "The importance of this document is that it clearly shows in black and white that pharmaceutical companies were willing to sell products they knew to be infected with hepatitis, and that state was prepared to buy those products because they were cheaper than less risky ones. What I want from the inquiry is it finally to be on the official record of what happened was entirely preventable and was motivated by unethical practices. For decades, the line from government is that this was an unavoidable accident and no one could have possibly foreseen. No one did anything wrong. Most importantly, one of the lines they used for decades was no one ever knowingly giving infected blood products. Was obviously a documentary like this just completely blows that statement out of the water." Janine Jones, 59, from Bromsgrove, Worcestershire, whose brother Mark Payton died at the age of 41 in 2003 after being infected with HIV and hepatitis while a pupil at Treelaw College, a border school in Hampshire that specialises in teaching hepatitis C, said she revealed that her patients had died before the new evidence emerged. This is... I just... I'm struggling with this one, guys, because when things like these happen, I just feel like that those who are in power just don't feel any sense of guilt. Like it was not us, it was the previous government, it was previous politicians and whatnot. Like, why should we have to apologize for this? Why should we have to pay for this? And it's like, dude, just accept that it was wrong, accept your responsibilities, and let people have that, let people have the let people try and die in some kind of peace. It's not right that people have to drag these on, not just this scandal, but any scandal. There's a little to no humanity with politicians sometimes. She said, even though most of us had some sort of inclination that this sort of stuff was going on, to actually see it in black and white is quite shocking, and to be honest, I'm glad that my parents weren't alive to witness that. Both my parents didn't handle everything that happened to Mark very well. Mama always blamed herself for giving hepatitis in the first place. If I mispronounce the name, I know you guys are going to say in the comments, I'm sorry. It's not easy, guys. You really think it's easy? It's not easy to say some names. Because she was the carrier. Dad was one that persuaded Mum to let him go to Trelaw to get him a better education. And to find out that was actually done while he was actually there. He went there when he was 11 years old, so it's quite barbaric when you think about it, really. The fact that they were doing that to children. The public inquiry was ordered by Theresa May in 2017, shortly after a group litigation was launched in the High Court by hundreds of victims of the scandal. But the legal action has been paused to allow the inquiry led by Longstaff to complete its work. An interim report last April, Longstaff said it was clear that wrongs were done at individual, collective and systematic levels. He highlighted the testimony of the Chancellor and the former Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt, who told the inquiry that the disaster was a failure of the British state. Evidence that had been heard at the inquiry of the government documents going missing. There were policies in the 1970s and 80s of not informing the victims who had been infected. In France, senior officials went to jail in the 1990s over a similar scandal, but there have never been a prosecution in the UK. And this is one of the things that really angers me, yeah? When this happens in other countries, any kind of scandals, those who were legitimately responsible face prison time. Those here in the UK, they get away with it. And it's so wrong. The former Health Secretary Andy Bowen told the Commons in 2017 that he believes that there had been a criminal cover-up on an industrial scale. Des Collins, a lawyer representing 1,500 victims and their families, said, "My view is that the administration at the time in the 80s and 90s realised what was happening in France and thought this isn't going to happen in this country, that pulled up a drawbridge to say nothing to see here. I think they were worried about criminal prosecutions that led to 40 years of denial." Tony Vareca, 33, who lost his father, Barry, the two uncles, to infections caused by infected blood products, he said he is yet to receive any redress from the government. Vareca, who spent his childhood in care as a result of the disaster, said, "My whole family was destroyed. It is cruel, really, what the government is doing to making us wait for their acknowledgement in their part of what happened." A government spokesperson said, "This was an appalling tragedy and our thoughts remain of those all impacted." Yes, of course, that's, standard procedure to say that stuff in this situation. "We are clear that justice needs to be delivered for the victims and have already accepted the moral case for compensation. This covers a set of extremely complex issues, and it is right that we fully consider the needs of the community and the far-reaching impact that this scandal has had on its lives. The government will provide an update to the Parliament on the next steps through an oral statement within 25 sitting days of the inquiry's final report being published." Immuno AG was bought by the US company Baxter International in 1996 for $715 million, which spun off its blood products business in 2015 and sold it to Shire plc. That company was acquired by Takeda Pharmaceuticals in 2019. A spokesperson for Takeda said, "We have the greatest sympathy with the individuals and families who have been infected by the infected blood. We fully recognise the importance of the inquiry and have cooperated with the inquiry aiming to assist in its investigation as far as we are able by trying to provide historic information in relation to the companies concerned. We will continue to remain fully engaged with the inquiry. Above all else, Takika are committed to the safety and quality of our medics. We have strict standards and procedures in place, and for plasma-derived therapy specifically in this includes rigorous donor selections, extended plasma testing and pathological reductions, all in compliance with international regulatory and industry standards. It would not be appropriate for us to provide further comment at this time, given the independent inquiry work finalising its report remains ongoing, and we welcome the full report that is due to be published next month. But is it going to make but the thing is that is there going to be some kind of justice? Yes, compensation needs to be made. There is no question about that. I don't think any of us are going to debate that. But is there going to be any kind of justice? Those responsible, is there going to be any kind of justice? I don't see it, guys. I really don't. The damage is already done, and only now the governments are acknowledging this. And I just think I just think that, politicians and governments are more concerned about their own reputation rather than accepting their sometimes than actually as well as that, rather than accepting their roles and responsibilities of owning up to things. No government is perfect. I know that. No politician is perfect. Everyone has flaws. But talking about a cover up here, and they didn't want this, and they kept this quiet. They didn't want people to know. They played it down, and people suffered. People suffered as a result, and they did not need to suffer, guys. Did not need to happen. Shouldn't have happened. And I don't really know what more to add to that, guys, except that I generally hope that they get some justice. I really do. I don't think they will. I want justice for these people, but I don't see it happening, if I'm honest. And my heart goes out to anyone listening to this who has been affected by this. You didn't deserve this. You really didn't. But what do you guys make of this story? What do you guys make of the whole blood scandal? What should be done? What should the government be doing? What lessons can they learn? Will this government take any lessons? Do you think the next government will take any lessons learned from this? What do you guys honestly think about all this and more? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. Greatly appreciate. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.